Okay, Monday, new episode, and today I am driving to Scotland. Big road trip today to go and see the customers for the mobile picking line. It is 380 miles from my house to where we're going in Scotland, so we've got a big day. We've got Andrea in the passenger seat as co-pilot.
Hello.
Share the driving between us. So big day to go up there, scope the job out and meet the customer, because we've never met the customer on this job before. So go up there, meet the customer, scope the job out, work out where it's going to go, work out the logistics of the delivery and everything else. And on this mobile picking line, they're having air conditioning fitted and they want to bring in clean air from outside the building. So I've got a drawing from George, and it also indicates where the inlet for this fresh air into the air conditioning is going to be. So I need to take that with me so that they can work out where they're going to put the duct in. So I'm doing that today. We've also got in the yard today the belts being fitted to the 4 conveyors to go to France. So Archie has got the spare DJI camera. He is going to film that process, because I think you'll find that process quite interesting. It's quite a unique process of how they fit the belts and how they join the belts, so we've got that. Now this episode is different but interesting. So we've got the belts being fitted today. Later on this week, we've been invited, myself and Andrea have been invited by one of our suppliers. Now if you remember back a few episodes when I went to Hillhead, I did a walk around of our screen mesh supplier. It turns out we're one of their biggest customers, which I was a little bit surprised at, to be honest, but it turns out we are one of their biggest customers. And as a thank you, they're taking us to Haydock races, to the horse racing this weekend. And it's up at Haydock, near Merseyside, and their main factory where they make the meshes is there, not far from the racecourse. So we've asked if we can go and do some filming whilst we're up that way, because I thought it'd be interesting. I've never seen the process of how they make these meshes. I've got a rough idea, but I've never actually physically seen the process. So the idea is we're going to go up there, they're going to show us the process, show us around the factory, and we're going to try and get it all on film so you guys can see how woven meshes, different screening media is made in their factory. So I thought that would be really interesting. So Archie, as I say, Archie's got the camera. Let's have a look and see how he's getting on with the belts being fitted back in the yard.
Morning guys, so the team from Interbelt have now arrived. They are here with our 4 belts. So there are 2 here at the minute, ready for the conveyors that are off to France. So one of the guys, Lee, at the minute, he is putting the rope around where we are going to want the conveyor to follow. They will then use this to pull the conveyor belting all the way around, around the head drum, back underneath, back up to the tail, and then they will connect it up there. I'll catch you in a bit. So the lads now are pulling the belt around. So they are using rope to line up where they need to go, and then they are pulling it with a forklift. You now see the belt is being fed round. So the rope is pulling around the tail drum. So you can now see our wheel return roller design. The wheels fit in between our wavy edge belt and our chevron fins, either side. This keeps the tension on the belt whilst also keeping out of the way of these parts. If we were to have a standard returns roller, it would just knock every single time one of the fins went over it, and eventually they would all just fall off. So you've got two more of the interbelt guys here, tensioning up the conveyor. We've got the joint about here. They are getting ready to vulcanise it now.
So that was a site visit done. Didn't get a chance to film anything whilst I was there, but that was the site visit done. Met the customer, gave him the dimensions of where his extraction point, or should I say the fresh air coming into the building, needs to be to go into the air conditioning unit. So he's got a drawing with all those dimensions. Just checked the site over, made sure there was no restrictions or anything for the delivery of the machine. Spoke with the customer, and now I'm on my way back. Now, I've got a Land Rover Discovery, and I think the sat-nav is set to find the most awkward route ever to get to site. We followed the sat-nav to get there, and this is the footage of the final mile to get to site. So yeah, as you can see, that is not your normal route into a site. Just been speaking to Archie on the phone. They're getting on really well fitting the belts back in the yard. They've got the belts in now, as you've already seen. So now we're going to catch up with them again to have a look at the belt joining process.
So the guys at Interbelt are now vulcanising the belt. Is it vulcanising?
Yeah, hot vulcanised that one.
Hot vulcanised. So the press goes up to 160 degrees.
Yeah, 100 psi in the compressor air. And basically, once it's at 160 degrees, we just leave it air for like 15 minutes at a temperature. And then you just cool it down.
Perfect. So 15 minutes, 160 degrees.
Yeah.
Starts curing about 142 degrees, was that?
Yeah, 142, 143, somewhere around
Perfect.
there, yeah.
So it's not long at all, really.
No.
So it's...
Obviously, you don't walk very fast, so that's why, you know, when it gets 140 to 160, it's quite not very fast, really.
Perfect.
So,
How heavy are these, do you know?
I think they're about, I think altogether they're about 150.
That's not too bad.
No,
You wouldn't want to lift them by
Only a
yourself.
section, yeah. You don't need to,
Nice. Fairly portable as well, I suppose.
yeah.
Not too big, but...
No. Obviously, but this one can do a 11/8 wide, 1200 wide.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an overkill really for this little 900 belt.
So how are these at 900?
This is 900
Forget.
wide, yeah.
Perfect. And then how are you connecting the wavy edge at the end? Is that just similar
obviously
process?
We've got like a A-frame basically with a bottle jack and rams what can basically put pressure down onto there after the super, after we buffed it up, keyed it up.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So when we first started doing this YouTube many years ago, our YouTube channel has probably been going for about 8 years now, and I used to just post stuff that I thought was interesting on there years ago. But it's only recently that we've taken it more seriously, and we now do our weekly, we started off bi-weekly, and we now do our weekly vlog on here. When we first started off doing it recently, and I said we'd do 10 episodes and see how it went. This is now episode 11, so we've decided to continue going. Now, the reason we do this is for 2 reasons. Some people like to do YouTube and they're making a career out of it, you know, social media influencers, and fair play to them. People think that that's really easy, and it's not. If you've got sponsorship or endorsements and all that sort of thing, you end up in a position where you're having to do what they want to do in return for money, in fairness, and that, but you are actually having to do what they want to do. The reason we do this is for 2 reasons. One is to promote our business, and that's already worked. We've already had phone calls from people that have seen our YouTube, and it's generated inquiries, it's even generated sales. And in doing so, because people see what we do as a business, you use it as a sales tool. People buy off of us because they've seen our company, they see what we're about, and it gives them confidence that they're dealing with a good company that will stand by the products and deliver what they say they're going to deliver. The other reason we do it as well is because I think it's genuinely interesting what we do, and not many people get to experience or see the things that we do. And when you read through the comments of some of the people that comment on here and that, they're genuinely finding it interesting from an information point of view. You know, the technical aspect of it, just to see what we do as a company. And when you read through some of the comments, it does actually spur you on to create more content. So we're going to continue doing the weekly episodes as this is, and we're just going to see where it takes us. And it's been noticed in recent times when we've had recruitment drives where the people that are applying, they know what sort of work we do, so we get the right candidates apply for the jobs. So we're going to continue weekly episodes every Sunday morning, 8 o'clock. There'll be a new episode. We're going to do some specials, different things that are coming up that we're going to cut into specials, but there'll always be a weekly episode for the foreseeable future. So it's Tuesday morning, I'm back in the yard after a trip back from Scotland last night. Full day yesterday. One thing that did surprise me yesterday, a little bit of a fun fact, my car, full tank of diesel, Perth and back, 760 miles, didn't have to fill it once. Very impressed. Right, so we've got a yard full of trucks this morning, we've got a Hiab, and we've got an Archie with a step frame on. We've got a machine being loaded out. It's the red shredder that you've probably seen in the background of previous episodes. We've done some work to it. It's a customer's machine, a dealer customer of ours. It's being loaded out, and actually this is going back to Scotland. So let's have a look and see what we're doing. So we've got the shredder loaded. As I say, we've done some work to this on the rotors and different bits and bobs. It's all been run up in the yard, and now it is on its way up to Scotland to a customer. So that's the shredder loaded on the back of the truck. We've got our friends from Hampson in, Hampson's transporting, Hampson's haulage I should say. They've come in with their Hiab. They keep spreading the news, as you can see. And this conveyor is being loaded up. And then Mikey here, once he's done, he's going to arrange some other stuff in the yard for us, and he's taking that back set of shafts out the yard. That's going to another machine. But we've got a yard full of kit. So while we've got the Hiab here, we're going to move stuff around. I'm going to move this generator. There's a shredder over the back that's tucked away. That needs putting together. bringing this side of the yard. We've got all the framework here for the oil screens. They're going to go into paint this week. Bit of a problem on paint. Believe it or not, our paint company has run out of a chemical to make some of the paint. Bizarrely, it's a bit like a fish and chip shop with no chips. So that hopefully is coming in today, and then we can crack on and get them painted. We've got the bits here, which is the hopper and the framework for that baler move up in North Wales. That's still going ahead in the next few months, but that's been put back because the building that it's going into is not quite ready. So that will be going in the next few weeks, and we'll show you that when that happens. So yeah, we're going to get this conveyor loaded up now, have a reorganise in the yard, and then hopefully we can create some more space for us. So we're just having a bit of a tidy up in the yard. This area here, we do actually want to scrape off and put tarmac planings in. And then these areas here is where old buildings stood over the years. And the ground conditions aren't exactly ideal for our forklift. So JMO's got the forklift stuck. So we're just getting another forklift around to give it a nudge so we can release it. But we're just trying to condense all these machines here into this area here to give us a bit more space into the yard. So this is the conveyors with the belts that got fitted yesterday. So the belt company have been in and fitted these. They've done all 4 conveyors now, and you'll see now the profile of this belt with the wavy edge. And the wavy edge goes over the top, and because it's flexible, we've stretched. So you can see it's stretched to go around here. And then you've got the straight cleats on here that will carry the material up the incline when it's in its working position. We've got the 2 short conveyors over here. They've been done as well. So you'll see these cleats will lift the material, and the material will sit in this area here and get carried at the top. When the side skirts are fitted, they'll come over here and sit in here between the flexible sidewall and the cleats. The actual side skirts themselves will sit over here, so it will contain all the material into the middle of the belt. And because it's small titanium chippings that this is moving, because it comes over the edge, the material can't come underneath the side skirt, up and over. It won't do that. It will stay inside as it should do. So these are due to be finished at some point. The lads have come off of these now to get the mobile picking line finished. And then as soon as they've got that done in the next few days, they'll come back onto here. Just trying to see where they've joined it. I mean, that's the join just there, I think. You can barely see where the join is. And then they've joined the flexible sidewall here. So it is all just one continuous belt. The rollers underneath, you'll see where the discs are on here. So these discs will run under the belt between the straight cleats and the flexible sidewall as return rollers. And you'll see now why we couldn't use flat rollers to support the belt underneath, because they'd just be jumping over this all the time. So that's why we use these disc rollers to support the belt. And then also down here, there's them 3 rollers there, same both sides, which hold the belt down in this position. So these belts aren't tensioned yet. We'll tension these belts and run them here and track them. But with these style conveyors, you've got to be a bit careful you don't over tighten them, because if you do in this position here, this conveyor will have a hump in it if you go too crazy tightening it, and it'll try and lift in the middle. So it just needs enough tension. There's not a massive amount of weight on these, so we don't need to go crazy with the tension. But just need to take the tension up, just so we get the positive drive on the top head roller. As you know, they've already been lagged. So it's like a rubber coated drum, so you get good contact. Just see the rubber coating on the drum there, and that's in good contact just there, and that's in good contact with the inside of the belt, so it's rubber on rubber drive. So the side skirts to be fitted to this. There's some underguards to be put on here as well, on all 4 conveyors, just so when it's working nobody can get their hands in here and get their fingers or anything trapped in here. So it's all going to be fully guarded, so nobody can get access to any working parts. There's some tin work to go around there to tidy that up. And then these holes here have got a plate that goes on here. It's like a teardrop shaped plate. It will go through that bolt hole. And then there is a grease nipple on the bearing just inside there. And these teardrop plates, all you do is to grease the bearings. You'll undo the nut, spin it out of the way, grease it, and then put it back to cover it up. These holes here are here, and we've got them on all the conveyors, because until we've got it running and got it tracked up, we don't know how these belts are going to track up. And we've done this, so we've got the provision to put a side roller in here to help with the tracking. There's some more tin guards to go on these exposed holes here. So by the time we're done, everything, all the moving parts where people can get their fingers caught, will be covered over. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. We're nearly there with these now. Back in the main workshop, we're making full use of the extra space that we've got, that we created last weekend. We've got Steve, the new guy, who started with us yesterday. So new guy started yesterday. He's been putting together these frames. These are E21Cs. We've got 2 frames in here. Nearly done. And by the looks of it down there, they're putting the boxes together. There's already 1 box there on the floor. So one of these is sold, and then at some point we're going to have to make another 2 E21Cs, because at the minute we have no stock. One of these is sold, one of them is potentially sold. So the lads will be straight on with another 2 of these, straight after these I think. But as it stands at the minute, we're trying to get these cleared up, because we've got that big pallet conveyor, which I've not really spoke about yet. There's a big pallet conveyor to do. And there's also another conveyor to go with these conveyors here. As I mentioned in the last episode, these are going to a customer in France, and they were let down by somebody else with a vibrating conveyor. And they've come to us and said, could you make us another conveyor? And because we struggled to say no, we said yes, not a problem. So there is another conveyor. It's not the same as this. It's a straightforward flat conveyor. I think it's around 4 meters long. Roughly, is it 4 or 5 meters long? Normal straight conveyor, which will go after these. The delivery date on these has been pushed back to the end of this month. So these will now be finished and be shipped out end of this month. And then the 5th conveyor is going at the end of next month. And then me and JMO are going start of October, I think, to France to install these. So that's all been pushed back a little bit now because of different changes and different things that have happened. But yeah, workshop's pretty busy. Lots more coming in. So let's crack on. These stainless steel distributors that Connor was making last week, the flange that goes on the bottom here in this hole, there's a 90-degree elbow that comes out, which we've got. The flanges that turned up are the wrong flanges. Now, if anybody knows anything about flanges, you can get different flanges that suit different pressures. And this is a 3-inch flange, I think it's PN16, and the supplier sent something different. We should have 8 holes in this, and they've sent one with 4. So we're just waiting for the new flanges to turn up, and then we can get these put in here. But these are going to be mounted above the deck screens for the oil company in Birmingham, and Steph has made the mounts for these, which I'll just go next door and I'll show you them. So these frames are the mounts for them distributors that I've just showed you. They'll bolt onto these holes here, to that side, to this side, and then they're already drilled at the bottom, on the bottom of the legs. Same both sides. And what they do is they mount onto the plates that are on the side of the screen box frame. So the screen box will sit underneath these frames. These will be mounted independently of the screen box. These will not vibrate. These are part of the actual fabric of the actual screen frame itself. And the distributors will mount onto here. The pipe flange that I was just talking about a minute ago, that's where the oil will come up into the distributor, fill the distributor up, and then the angle plate on there with the 2 fins on it will spread the oil across the width of the deck screen. So yeah, they're done now. They can go to paint. But as I said earlier on, got a problem with paint at the minute. We're just waiting for a paint supplier to get some chemicals together to make us some paint. As far as I understand it, we should be having some paint in tomorrow. So Dan in the paint booth has got quite a bit of painting to do to get this done. And then as soon as this is all painted, we'll start doing assembly. And this is their new assembly area at this end of the workshop. So over here we've got the hoppers in primer for the bottom of the deck screens. We've got one of the deck screens there. This is all to do with the oil screens to go to Birmingham. We've got a deck screen there. There's another one outside. The 2 hoppers to go underneath. So most of it is now primed. We're just waiting for the paint, get the paint on, and then we can start assembling it, and then that will be shipped out in the next few weeks. Mobile picking line is coming together now. Control panel is mounted. Nice sticker on there with all the instructions and the maintenance and everything on it. It's all marked up with all the controls. Sean the electrician is here wiring that in now. The motor and gearbox has now turned up for this as well. Rob's just fitting the belt and tensioning that up. The air conditioning unit for this machine is also here. Got 2 holes there for vents. So there is a hole saw, I think they're 180mm. There's a hole saw coming to drill them through. And then on this side, because this is going inside a building and they want to bring in fresh air from outside, they're putting some ducting. The ducting will come in from the top and come down. And then we're going to mount a box on here with a 400mm diameter connector on the top, so that the ducting from outside the building can come straight in, and then the air conditioning unit can suck clean fresh air from outside the building into the unit. And this should be good enough to keep everything nice and chilled in here, which I don't think where it's going it's going to get particularly warm. But after visiting the site yesterday, it's quite a damp atmosphere, so this air conditioning unit is a dehumidifier as well. But this is coming on now. Like I say, Sean the electrician is here, he's wiring it up, and then hopefully early part of next week we should have this running. We're going to work on the hydraulics tomorrow morning, which are going to go underneath. Just come down here and I'll show you where they're going to go. So the hydraulic power pack is going to be mounted in there, and then we're going to have to run all the hydraulic lines from the back legs and the front legs into a valve bank, which is going to go just inside this leg here, and we're going to have a petrol engine driven hydraulic power pack just to operate the legs and the steps. I would imagine when this particular machine is put in place on site, it will very rarely be moved, so that engine is only going to get used to put it in position, because I just get the impression it's just not going to be moved very often. But if they needed to, it's there. So that is coming on now. We are near completion on this machine. So today is hydraulic pipe up day on this. Now, as I've said before, we've got petrol engine with a tank mounted just there, and that is going to power the hydraulic legs. So today's job is to pipe it all up. The lads have mounted the tank and the engine, and also the valve. The valve is mounted around here. So that's been mounted there. It's out of the way, so no machine can get near it to hit it, and also it can be operated from ground level in its upper and lower setting. So we've got 4 legs on this machine that are all going to have independent control on these levers. So you'll pull these levers and operate the legs, and then we're probably going to have this one, the furthest one away, that's going to lower the stairs, raise and lower the stairs. So I'm going to put it in there. So I'll just give you a bit of a run round. If you're not familiar with hydraulic circuits, this, believe it or not, is probably about as simple as it gets. So I will run you through how it works. So hydraulics always start with a hydraulic reservoir or a hydraulic tank, and this is our hydraulic tank. So oil's in there, and then it comes out of the tank through this pipe and goes into this. This is the hydraulic pump. Now obviously this hydraulic pump is powered by the engine, so the drive shaft and coupling inside this little bell housing turns the pump, and it sucks the oil down this pipe here into the pump, and then out the other side of the pump there is another fitting that then generates the flow and the pressure. So there's going to be a pipe that goes from there, and that will go into this fitting here. Now we know that this is the inlet because this here is the main pressure relief valve. This relief valve here, if you could think you've got a pump that's generating flow and pressure, if you get one of these ramps to the end of its stroke, there's nowhere for that oil flow and pressure to go to. So there needs to be some sort of safety valve in the system to relieve that oil flow and pressure. And that's what this valve here does. This diverts the oil from the ram that's gone to the end of its stroke and then sends all that oil back to tank. And it does that through the valve bank. There's various, inside this valve bank, it's a little bit like a honeycomb, so you've got different ports and orifices and oil galleries and everything else. And the oil eventually will find itself back to this fitting on the end. And then that fitting on the end will go back to the top of the tank. That there is a return filter on the tank, and there's a port just there for the oil to go back into the tank. So the oil goes tank, pump, valve bank, and back to tank. If you don't operate any levers, that's what it does. It just circulates around the system. Now when you operate this here, by pulling that lever there, what you're doing, there's a valve inside there, and on the valve there's lots of different internal rings, sort of recesses in the valve, and the valve slides inside and it diverts the oil. So the oil that comes in here will come through, and when you move that valve it diverts it from there and comes up and will be out one of these ports. So when you operate that valve lever in both directions, you're basically diverting the oil that's coming from the pump, from the tank and the pump into here, and it diverts it through these pipes, and then these pipes is what goes to the rams. And then that, so by pulling that, say for instance, if these 2 pipes here were connected to this ram here on the right hand side, that valve there would then operate this ram. Now one thing we have done that is slightly different on this is, that's the port into the ram, and that's the port into the ram the other way, so we can lift the rams up and down. And basically what you've got in there, that's a tube in there, and the rod on the end has got like a piston inside with some seals on it. So the oil will go in there and then fill this cavity up, and as the pressure builds, it will push the internal piston, the plunger, basically this way, and that's what extends the ram and pushes the leg down. And then obviously if you want to bring the leg up, this comes the other side of the piston. So basically you've got two ports, and between them two ports is a piston, and depending on where you put the oil depends on which way the piston moves, which direction the piston moves. Now one thing we have done on this is this valve here is what's called a check valve, and there is a diagram on the side of it of how it all works. I won't try and explain the diagram, but in essence what it does is, if you didn't have that in there and this leg was up, it's probably not the end of the world with this, because these legs will be supported on pins. As you can see down the bottom here, we're going to put pins in these legs, so when it's in its upper position it will sit on pins, so these rams will do nothing at that point. These rams are just there to lift it up and down. But say for instance you were lifting this up, and this is going to go up about 1.2 meters. If one of these hoses burst, which does happen, that's not it's not common, but it's not impossible for that to burst. If one of those hoses burst, there's nothing to stop the machine coming down on this leg, and you could have a potential where the machine could tip over. So you have a check valve, and what the check valve does, you've got two ports on the check valve, these two here, and say you put pressure in the top valve. So by putting pressure in the top valve and the oil comes up to operate there, we need to allow oil in this line here to go back to tank. So the check valve, what it does, it lets the oil into the top, but the pressure inside this line here opens a valve to allow the oil out of this line here. So you need the pressure to go in the top to release the pressure in the bottom. And then if a hose ever did burst off, these valves on both sides shut closed, and the pressure inside the cylinder would remain, and it would stop the machine from coming down on this ram in case of a hose failure. So we thought we would be better off putting these on here, because if ever there was a hose failure when lifting up and lowering this machine, we could have a potential catastrophic situation. So we've put check valves on all four leg cylinders to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to get this piped up now, and once I'm done, give you a run round. Got to try and find a neat way of doing the hose runs, which we think we've already sorted out. Nice tidy install so that it all looks really tidy. So we'll crack on with that and we'll show you how we get on. So Friday morning, back in the yard, managed to get this piped up yesterday, so I thought I'd better just show you around what we did yesterday to get this piped up. So got the hoses running from the back legs, both sides, a couple of hose clamps on there, just to hold it nice and tidy. And then underneath those hoses, the four hoses for the back legs, run down the length here, up out the way, nothing can catch them in here. Archie's just filling the hydraulic oil tank up with oil, but there has been a bit of a kerfuffle. Somebody has used a hydraulic oil can for diesel and not marked it up, which is one of my pet hates. So need to see who's done that, sort that out. So Archie's just draining the tank of its diesel so we can put hydraulic oil in. So we've piped up the valve bank around here. There's a lot going on in this area now. So we've got steps on this lever with the two T-pieces, because obviously we've got two rams being operated off of one lever. So we've got T-pieces in here to send the oil to both rams at the same time. So we've got legs on there. These do the two front legs. So these pipes here go off to these two front legs here on the other side, and these two go off to the two back legs. Now we've done that and we've worked out which way is going to be which, we'll order a sticker to go on this piece of box section here, so it'll mark up which lever does what and in which direction, so there's no confusion there for anybody who's lifting it up and down and operating the steps. So we're just going to get the oil topped up and then give it a go. So that's the legs going down. Let's try the stairs, Arch.
Yeah.
So that's all that working. So we'll get that tidied up. And that's that job ticked off the list. One thing that not many people realise that we do here, we've got our own machine shop. Now, I know some of you watch Cutting Edge Engineering, Curtis, in Australia. Got a very successful YouTube channel, and he does a lot of machining work. Very skilled, very talented bloke, really interesting to watch. Now, we haven't got a Curtis, we've got a Colin, and he is probably Curtis's Pomey uncle that runs our lathe and mill here, and we've had a job come in this morning. I thought I'd better just show you what it is and what we're going to do to fix it. I think you might find it interesting. So this is our lathe that Colin uses. Fairly standard lathe, and probably does 90% of what we do here at Spitfire. We could do with a bigger lathe. There are certain jobs that we can't do in this lathe because it's just not big enough, but it probably does 80–90% of what we do. And the job that I'm going to show you now is a job that we can't 100% do here at Spitfire. So let me show you what it is. So we've got this here. Now this is something that has been made in the past. It goes on a shaft on an auger for a local customer of ours, and they process wood chip for biomass. So they'll process the wood chip that gets burnt in biomass boilers, and we have had this made for them in the past. So basically it is a sleeve that goes over a shaft, and then it's cross drilled here and here, that then fits onto another shaft. And what's happened is this shaft here has snapped off. So we've got to repair this so it goes back to normal. So if you can imagine, there's a shaft that comes up, fits in here. This slides over the top and has two bolts going through it to secure it to the shaft. And then this is the bit that the gearbox actually fixes to. And that was originally on there. So what we are now going to do, as I say, this bit is too big to go in our lathe. We've tried it, but we just cannot get it in the lathe and hold it steady enough. So we're going to send this to a local engineering company that has got a bigger lathe. They're going to face this off and reduce this face here by 10mm. And then once they've reduced that by 10mm, they're going to drill the centre and put an M16 thread in there for us. And then when that comes back, Colin's going to get another piece of material, and what he's going to do is going to create, let me move that over. So what he'll do is he'll create this shaft here, but we're going to put like a flange this end, like a washer, like a disc on this end, all machined out of one piece, and then that will be 10mm thick. So the 10mm that we reduce from here, we're going to add it into here, and then put a thread sticking out the end. So when we're done, we'll be able to get hold of the new bit of shaft and screw that in there, and the 10mm flange that we'll have created will butt up against this, and then we'll weld that onto there. So in essence, it's a repair, but we should end up back to original, and hopefully that will do the trick. As I say, Cutting Edge Engineering in Australia, they do a lot of machining work. He's got a much bigger lathe than us. I wonder if Archie's ever heard of Cutting Edge Engineering. Let me ask him.
Never heard of him.
Strange. So yesterday, if you remember, I talked about Colin, our machinist here, with a broken shaft. So Colin has done his bit. So he's machined this from 70mm rounds. He's machined all this down. I think that's 42. He's machined it down. He's put a keyway in it, and this is back to the original dimensions of the broken piece that I showed you yesterday. And he's also tapped the middle M16 so that we can, basically what I think they're going to do is they're going to cut the head off of a bolt. So we've got a piece of threaded bar, bit of studding, screw that into there, and then when the other bit comes back, that will screw into the other piece. And then what we'll do is, once that's on there, we've got a chamfer on here. That angled piece there is called a chamfer. And then what we can do is, once that's screwed in and tight, we can run the welder around here and secure that to the other piece. So when that comes back, I'll show you what we've done to that, and see when the repair is finished, you can see what it looks like. So a couple of days ago we showed you this. Now I've been a bit lax in trying to film this as it went. The lads have just cracked on with it, and I haven't been able to get there at the different stages of the build, but you can sort of see what we've done. I showed you this part that was machined, and then there was an internal thread in there. This part had an internal thread in it. It was all screwed together, and then a run of weld was put around here just to secure it on. So the customer is now on his way to come and pick that up. But it gives you an idea of some of the things that you can do if you're creative and you've got access to a lathe and a mill. There's not a lot you can't repair if you think about it and put your mind to it. So the job that I showed you earlier on, and at the start of the week, where we were machining to repair that shaft, I wanted to get a bit more of a video footage of us using the lathe to sort of show the people that aren't familiar with how lathes work, sort of what they're used for. But I didn't actually realise at the different stages where they were with it, and I missed all of it. So we've got some little rings that we've got to machine up now, and we're going to set the GoPro up and show you the process of using the lathe and what the lathe actually does. A really simple job, so you'll just get a grasp of what the lathe does, how it works, and how Colin uses it to achieve what we're trying to achieve. So I'll just spin the camera around and I'll show you what we're going to do now on this job. So basically this ring here in the lathe at the minute, this needs this size inside turning out to a specific size. So what we've done is we've cut these on the plasma cutter slightly undersize, and then Colin will use the lathe to just open this internal hole out to a specific size. So we'll get the GoPro running and you'll see how it all works. So these are the rings that Colin was making on the lathe. You see the internal has been turned down to the right size. Colin's just clamped it on here now. He's just going to get rid of this burr on the outside, clean them up, and then they can go to the customer. I'm not quite 100% sure what these are going to be used for, but what I understand is it's for a customer of ours featured in previous episodes, Pioneer Plant. It's a modification for one of their machines. This apparently goes around a cab mount on a machine. Devlon, the manufacturer, have given them the drawings and then they've given us the drawings to make them to. And from what, like I say, from what I gather, that's some sort of space to go in a cab mount. That's as much as I know. We just got given the drawing, asked to make it, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so I'm in the car heading up to Haydock. As I said earlier on in this episode, being treated by our screen mesh supplier Brymon that had taken us out for a day of horse racing. But on the way up there, we've arranged to go and have a look around their factory because I've never been around their factory. Now, cast your mind back to when you were at school and you did some weaving at school, and possibly at the time, like I did, thought, why are they teaching us this? Because this isn't relevant to school. Well, today is the day where it's relevant, because you'll be able to see how they make the screen mesh and how it's all put together. So I'm hoping we can have a walk around the factory and they can show us how it all works. In other news, last year we did a stand at the RWM show, and that's Recycling and Waste Management show at the NEC in September. We did it last year and we're doing it again this year. So the 11th and 12th of September, if you are at a loose end, and you fancy a trip to Birmingham to see what's the latest in waste and recycling, come and have a look. We're going to be there on our stand. We've just stopped in the services on the M6 toll, and Andrea has spotted a giant inflatable unicorn. And when I say giant, I mean full size, unicorn size. So apparently that's coming to RWM with us. Not quite sure how that's going to fit in, but you won't miss us because we'll be the stand with the people grinning with a giant inflatable unicorn. So I'm not saying you can ride it or anything, but you can probably have a photo taken next to it. So come and have a look. 11th and 12th of September. Come and see us, come and say hello. And there's also going to be some prize giveaway that's exclusive to the show. Forgot to mention, it's free to attend. I think you had to pay for parking because it's the NEC and they don't give anything away for nothing. But the actual show itself is free to attend. You can either get your ticket online or on the day. Andrew's going to put a link in the description below. So here we are at Harp Screen. We've asked if we can come up today to do some filming of their production facility here. So we're going to go in and meet Danny and he's going to show us around. Okay, so we're here at Harp Screen today and I'm here with Danny. Danny, what's your job role here? What do you do here?
Me, I'm the production manager.
So Danny's the production manager. He's been here a little while, haven't you said?
15 years.
Been here 15 years. So how long's the business actually been going as a business?
As a business, I believe it's been going roughly around, I think between 25, 26 years, I reckon, in that sense, before my time, obviously. But we've just hit our 21 years this year.
Yeah. And I understand it was originally set off by a famous Gaelic footballer, is that right?
Yeah, it was one guy, Kevin McCabe, who came in, finished there, decided to set up in a little shed. And then things went from there, went bigger and bigger into Ireland, came over here. We had a premises over on the other site, and then we moved over to here, and it just grew and grew from there.
Our experience with, this is obviously Harp Screen, but we deal with a sister company called Brymon. They are owned by the same people. We obviously buy all of our meshes through Brymon, but it actually originally comes from your factory, doesn't it? It comes from Harp Screen, is where it comes from.
So Brymon was integrated into our business a number of years ago, which they used to operate over their own factory, and then we just integrated it from there. But we still have offices down in Wolverhampton and stuff, so but everything else, would operate and come out of it.
Just quickly, as you can see there, this is sort of like the main view on there. On the right hand side is the guillotines. As they're doing there, they're putting it now and knocking the wires out, ready for preparation to go where the wires are knocked out to a press. The press will then put a sheet plate on it, and then go over to the folding press. The press will then fold it, and then you'll end up with a wired hook, which then, like you said, these guys in the furnace, because it's high tensile steel, if you don't put them in a furnace, the wires will just snap.
Well, I was just about to ask that. Obviously, these are heated so that you can fold it.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful, obviously, not to take too much temper out of it by putting the heat in, but if you don't, because it's high tensile, it will just snap. If it was mild steel, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is the weaving process of what we're going on here. And essentially, it's like weaving fabric. The machine will open up left and right, up and down. And a cross wire, hook wire will go into there. You'll end up with your long wires, cross wire, mesh. Comes out as behind your mesh there.
Expected arrival pressing on here, riding out the timber, the Manson going out to get chased. Here's one of the purpose coming on from then suddenly continues a light team. Expected arrival deep inside the last third. And that's your
So that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the messages. Now, we've got a lot more footage of our visit to Harp Screen. Far too much to put in this episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a job properly, and we're going to do an entire episode just on that factory visit, and that will come up in the next few weeks. So we'll see you next week on the next episode, where I am away on site, major shredder overhaul. We're there all week, and lots of footage will be taken. So we'll see you on the next one.